Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. James Smith Jr., and welcome to another edition of the Dr. James Show. We have an amazing, incredible celebration, alumni all-star event. Got all that out. Looking forward to a wonderful show. Can't go anywhere without my partner in crime, although we don't get in too much trouble. Shannon, welcome. Happy New Year. Welcome to the celebration show.
Happy New Year. Wait, did we get through an entire year? Close to an entire year? Oh my goodness.
We've done it. We've pivoted. We pursued a new way of living, and we're here ready to take on next year.
Love it. I love it. I'm excited about today.
Why?
Well, not only did we get to do this once in 2020, we are bringing back guests for a second round. So that just brings it up another level, Dr. James. And the folks that are joining us today, if you didn't get a chance on round one to ask your questions or make your comments, please try and do it this time around. Because I feel like this is the way to bless 2020.
Yeah, we have some powerful people. I can't wait to hear their thoughts, hear their lessons learned, highlights for the year, and what's in store for 2021. It's going to be memorable. It's going to be memorable. You ready to get started?
Hey.
Let's get this party started right. Bam. Woo, here they come. Wow. Look at that energy. Look at
Listen,
it.
Let's get this party started quickly.
Right? All right. What I'm going to do is do my best. Shannon and I will be going back and forth asking questions, but feel free to just give and serve and talk about where you've been, where you're going, and lessons learned. I'll start with Teresa. Teresa, THK, can you quickly tell the folks who may not have seen you the first time, what do you do when you're not on the show with us?
Oh my gosh, how much time do you have, Jim? Holy cow. I do some things that Jim does. So I'm a speaker and a trainer, and that's how we got to know each other and be good friends. I'm also a stand-up comedian, and I also am part of a team that produces a show for PBS called Counterculture. And I am delighted to be back, my friend.
Glad to have you. Teresa, real quick, why don't you lead off? Lessons learned this year, highlights, or what's in store for you for 2021?
Lessons learned, and certainly it's been a crazy year, but I think seeing the glass half full, looking for opportunities, you'll find them. If you look for obstacles, you'll find them too. But we certainly, both you and I, Jim, we looked for opportunities, and we're doing some things we never would have done if it weren't for the situation that we're in. 2021, business looks great. I've got some awesome clients. I'm looking to do more virtual work and hoping to get published. Well, actually, I'm not even saying hoping. I will get published this year.
I was going to jump in. When I heard the hope.
I could feel it. Yeah, it's happening.
Thank you. Shannon, who's next? Who's next to the party?
I'm going to have to go over to Bridget. I'm going to have to hear more because I wanted more after all of these guests. But Bridget, I have a question for you. But I heard you wrote this little book this year or something. I just heard this little rumor.
Yeah, a little book, a little something. Let me tell you, Shannon, Dr. James and I met at a conference back in 2018 in San Diego. And it was just one of those crazy chance meetings. We were in the green room, and it's a long story as to why I was sitting in the green room looking crazy and like I'd lost my mind and all that type of stuff. So we'll save that for another show. But we became fast friends, and everybody who's on knows how easy it is to become fast friends with Dr. James. And this year in 2020, we saw everything from A to Z. But one thing that we just could not unsee, and I don't think any of us can get it out of our minds, was the murder of George Floyd. And I'm not the type person to get out and march, or I am a professional speaker, but I'm not the type to get up and give speeches about social injustice or racial injustice. It's not me, but I will write. And I said, it's not enough for me to write about my thoughts on being Black in America and how I felt about the George Floyd murder or any other murders of men, women, and children of color at the hands of police. Or I think about Trayvon Martin, that wasn't at the hands of police, but I digress. I said, that's not enough for me to talk about my perspective. What if I could get the voices of other people and bring them into the conversation? So we, Dr. James and my husband and 17 other people wrote A Collective Breath. And there are chapters in here, stories of being Black in America and visions of change. So we don't talk about what's wrong and what's a problem and what's so tough and what's so stressful. We talk about that, but we also talk about this is what needs to be done differently. Here are our recommendations. Here's where you can go to get more resources. Here's how you can be an ally. I love this book. There's only one person on the planet who I think loves it more than I love it, and that would be Dr. James.
Oh, and I believe you, Dr. James. Look, representing as usual. Thank you, Bridget. I'm excited to read your book and to get my hands on it. And Dr. James, where do you go from here?
Let's stay in the whole book category. TheCecilyWilson.com. She wrote The P Word. I have that book as well. Cec, what's going on? Welcome back to the show.
Hello, everybody. Hello, I'm so glad to be back here again on the Dr. James Show. It has been a crazy year. And I know every single last one of us on here are all saying the same thing. Thank you, Lord. It is finally over. Although we know it's not going to magically erase everything that has happened over the last 8 or 9 months, but we can certainly breathe a little sigh of relief that hopefully things will get back to some sense of normalcy. We don't want it to go back the same way that it was, and it probably will never be the same that it was, but it will be a sense of normalcy and a sense where we can breathe a little easier, maybe have a little less drama that's been going on. All the cray is enough. It's enough. But I'm excited to be back here. I'm excited about what's been going on with She Said the P Word. If you have not purchased your book, listen, I'm plugging it right now. So Bridget, although you have an amazing book and I cannot wait to read the Breath, listen, this book is regardless of who you are, TJ, Robert, Dean, Zach, all of you guys can read this book and find yourselves in the story. So you're probably wondering, Cecily, what's the P word? You got to read the book to find out.
Teaser.
Yes, so I'm excited about the year to come. And I want to challenge every one of us to think about what we have left, what we have left. What are you going to do with what you have left? Because we all have lost so much, businesses, lives, financial ruin, all of those things. But what are you going to do with what you have left going into the new year? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. What I have left in my hand, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to protect and trust what's been given to me and what I have left, and how I'm going to propel into 2021, taking no freaking prisoners. It's on and popping, on and popping.
Well, it sounds like the perfect pick for the pandemic is what I'm saying, Dr. James.
They dropping the peas. The peas are dropping. The peas are dropping.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And you know what? Go ahead, Dr. James.
I was going to say, before we move to the next person, why don't we just throw out a question randomly and get anyone a chance to chime in on it? So the question could be, lessons learned this year based on what has happened. What are you doing differently going forward? What's a lesson? What's something that you learned this year that, it happened through a pandemic, but still you learned something new?
The biggest thing that I've learned how to do is to be a practicing pivot professional, like literally a practicing pivot professional. You got to learn how to freaking pivot regardless. And you don't expect everything that's happening, but at the drop of a hat, you have to take a different turn, a different direction. because you don't know how you're going to handle it. Expect the unexpected. So I think for me, it's been how to become the strongest pivot professional there is.
I see Niall and CJ nodding their heads. You can unmute yourself if you want to chime in.
Yeah, that word pivot is, it's definitely something I had always subscribed to. In business, you got to pivot when things don't go well, but this was an all-out pivot. I mean, everything this year had to pivot. And I think for me, the biggest lesson around that was, if you're busy complaining, you're not busy pivoting. And I saw, lots of people, making jokes and making light of things, because that gets us through. But I also saw sort of this litany of sort of complaining about the current situation. And then I also saw a lot of people who were silent. And then all of a sudden they had a new client or a new job or a new something or a new direction. And then that's when they started to sort of emerge. And the importance of reaching out for help when you need it. But, if you're putting your energy toward what you don't have, you're not putting your energy toward what you could be gaining.
That's good. That's good. CJ, how about you?
I totally agree with that. And with Cecily and what Niall are saying, because for me, like I own a video production company where 9 times out of 10, I have to go out to a corporation or to a company in order to work. So this year, when everything started happening, it was like, okay, what can I do that's different and still have some sort of income? So I worked with my guys and learned how to stream. Right. So it's just the pivot. Pivoting that was a great word, Cecily. And just learning new things about yourself and learning through things about your business, because, when you're backed into a corner, you can choose to back down or just, I love this book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's going towards the obstacle. Right? So if you go towards the obstacle and you face the fear, you can overcome it. And I think that I'm naturally a glass half full type person anyway. So let's go. And that's just kind of how this year was.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Shannon, we have a couple minutes left before this segment is over. Who would you like to hear from before they disappear?
I'd love to go to Bob because, Bob, I was so excited to see your image last time you were on of you on this mountaintop with as big as your foot that you were standing on. And, was that could you share us one of your other highlights from 2021? I mean, from 2020?
I think for me, there were 2 big highlights in 2020, and they included health and making sure that I personally had the right foundation to consistently show up when I'm pivoting. And for me, that meant running, it meant praying, it meant the consistency so that as these events hit, I had enough foundation to weeble wobble, but not fall over.
Oh, yeah, you're dating yourself. You're dating yourself.
I know. So I think it was that. And the other highlight for me is really diversity, equity, and inclusion in a different kind of way. And harkens back to Dr. King's letter from Birmingham and talking about time is relatively an idle concept, and you can use it in a negative way or you can use it in a positive way. And I think for me, the reflection was being idle with my time and not saying anything around diversity, equity, inclusion for Bob is no longer okay. And I've started that journey to give voice to those things and increase my comfort level and confidence with doing it. So that's defined 2020 for me. And I got a lot more work to do in 2021, everybody. So if y'all reach out and give me a little pat on the back, that'd be great.
Hey, Toy, highlight for you for 2020?
Well, I was over here with Bob going, amen. I think that my word was foundation, and it is going forward foundation. We had talked about before everyone jumped on the call, one of the biggest highlights was, my family moving from Pennsylvania to Texas, because we were in a state even that was no longer serving us. And so in order for us to be able to move to the next level, we needed to move. And so in order for that to happen, we needed to make sure that our marriage, our businesses, our kids, everything was built on a strong foundation. So that when we, and as we move forward in 2021, that foundation just kind of plants seeds that just continue to grow. So that was kind of even the biggest takeaway. I focused on a lot, like Bob was saying, with my mental strength. You and I talked a lot about that. And I love that Bridget was saying that she was not typically somebody, you know, that would go out and mark, but what can you use that was in your hand? And so I used my show, the Well Dressed Brand TV show, to just make sure that we were okay. I talked about mental strength and trauma and drama and all the things that people were going through to help give them a strong foundation to be able to handle whatever was being thrown at them. So that was my takeaway, my learning.
Shannon, I'm going to throw another question out there before we move to an individual, and that is, what was your greatest challenge this year? What was your greatest challenge? And yes, the pandemic was a challenge, but how about you personally? What was your greatest challenge, and how did you move through that? Anyone can unmute themselves and take it.
How about Tammy? I think I see Tammy. Take yourself off mute, Tammy. How you doing?
Greatest challenge. Well, you and I were talking yesterday, James, and I'm a church elder at my church, and I think probably one of the greatest challenges for me was worshiping at the television screen. And so for Christmas Eve, when I found out that we were going to have to worship at our television screens yet again, I found that out in October, and in November, in a Presbyterian church, you decide everything by committee, so it's always a vote. And the vote was presented this way. Yes or no, we will have a 5 p.m. live stream service on Christmas Eve. And I went, you know, church online or no church. Those were the choices. But me and several other elders did not feel happy with that. And so we reached out to the community, and we wound up hosting a live service drive-in at the Harley Davidson using an FM broadcaster. And when Jesus and Mary progressed from the back of the parking lot in the teeming rain, these two bedraggled figures, it really just made the Christmas story hit me in a whole new way. And but I learned that, you know, we talk about the fact that Christ and God are exhibited in our relationships with one another. And as much as we can maintain them through technologically mediated things, there are certain times when we need space. We just need to be together, even if we're, you know, separated by windows and doors and whatnot. But Christmas caroling at a neighbor's house who was shut in because of cancer. Those were some of the things that, well, I think I told you yesterday, Jim, it made us feel like who's in Whoville, right? Christmas comes whether you are, you know, full of gifts and out at Christmas shows and shopping in the mall or whatever. It comes. And so it came differently for us this year. And I think that was probably one of my biggest challenges, was trying to connect with people in a way that felt really meaningful. And so we found a way at Christmas, and that was really special.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, Tamara, is that the challenge has been the intimacy, the touch. I'm a people person. I mean, loving.
I really miss hugging, right?
I miss the hugging, you know, like you're like, I want to go, oh, wait a minute. Can I touch you? Can I say something to you? Like, so that is always the challenge for me. And I cannot wait to literally just go
hug everybody I meet.
Like, who is this girl? Like, literally, can you stop touching me?
All the non-huggers.
Amen.
All the non-huggers are thankful right now. That's the only thing. The non-huggers love COVID. They're like, thank God no one's hugging me.
So the challenge is real. They say the struggle is real, but the challenge of hugging or not hugging is definitely real.
All right. Shannon, who's in the game next? Who's in the party?
I'm going to have to go to Miss Sharp, because she has a specific job in this universe that I appreciate. And it's not just her last name. So that's all I'm going to say. Miss Tavia, let's hear from you, my friend. Can you share what you do, and you know what's in store for you for 2021?
Yeah, so I'm an image coach. I help people up-level their image online, offline, and now we're living in an online world. So really, it's like, how do you show up powerfully in this world, right? We are virtual. We are meeting people, connecting with people differently. We are having to show up in a different way. So for me, I really had to think about how am I going to, run my business, because I was used to helping people in person and helping them, do things in person. And now it's all online. So for 2021, it's continuing to help people really, be fully self-expressed as who they are, being authentic in their personal brand, showing up online in a powerful way, and your image, using your image as your tool to do that. And wow, how powerful it could be if we all just really, really take control of it. Because there's a lot of things right now we don't have control of, but the one thing you have control of is you and how you show up. So
that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of showing up, my good buddy Marcus Allen just showed up, President CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Philly and New Jersey. I know your mind never slows down. What was this year like for you? Key learnings and or what's in store for next year?
So first of all, Jim, thanks for having me on the show. I apologize for being a little tardy to the party. And I see some really good friends on here. I got to say, this is, in a year that, any of us, if we want to, we can pull out all the negative things that happen and heartbreaks and deaths and all the really serious, grave stuff that happened this year. But I'm always the type of person who looks for the silver lining. And so for 2020, and I'm competitive too, which is not always a good thing. Just a little competitive. And so I'm thinking, like, at the beginning of this, I'm an end in mind type of guy, but I also appreciate the journey. But I'm thinking, like, what am I going to be better at in 2021 and post-pandemic, right? Because, we are always competing for resources. We are always competing against ourselves. We are competing against something. And so the silver lining for me in 2020 was just really delving into me, both spiritually and physically, in terms of my mental status, and really just getting in touch with me. So my biggest challenge was, facing the things that I saw within myself, and then making a commitment to say, okay, I got to change that and do something about it. So as I look towards 2021, I'm really focused in on the great work that we started here at Big Brothers Big Sisters this year, in terms of, we looked at ourselves and said, well, it's not enough for us just to put a caring, compassionate adult in the life of a child. We said that, and research told us that the fix the child model is not as effective. When you focus all your resources just on the child, then you don't have as good of an impact on that child long term. And so we brought in the entire family and the community, and we started doing community care packages and delivering food and PPE and all this stuff to families who are in need and in distress. And so I think the pandemic for us showed us that we need to go deeper, we need to go broader, we need to go further, and that we could do it with the use of technology and a lot of our stakeholders who are a lot smarter at certain things than we are. So I'm really excited about what this pandemic has taught us, both as an organization and also taught us as a country, as we move forward into 2021 and post-pandemic.
Shannon, you enjoying the party? You enjoying the party?
Yes, I am. But we need another show. Everybody has to come back next year for sure in 2021. That's what's in store for me, Dr. James. I'm going to have him have all of you back on in 2021. But I'd like to go to Dean, if we don't mind. And I wanted to know from Dean, if you could tell us, what was one of your greatest key learnings this year?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Dr. James, and having me on the show. Great to be with this amazingly talented group of people and just hearing all their testimony from this year, which is, probably one of the most amazing years. And I say that I'm a glass half full person too. And I always look at, change brings opportunity, and across all of the different spectrums. My key word for this year is perspective. I think that, as we transition through all of the different things that we've had to endure, I think we gain perspective on a personal level, professional level. And, for me, in my own life, it's allowed me to really take the time and really measure what's important. I started out this year, first of all, I met Dr. James in Singapore working internationally some years ago. And we've known each other for years. We've started to work together this year in my current company, and just have the greatest respect for Dr. James and everything that he does for people. But I started out this year working internationally in the United Kingdom. I was doing essentially some M&A activity for a key client. I thought I was going to be there for 6 months. My wife and I had planned a vacation at the end of that was going to tour all through Europe with some great friends that we met in Singapore. And then sure enough, what happens in March? And then we had to, using the word pivot, we had to pivot. I had to come back to the US. I completed the transfer of numerous employees in a foreign country with all different labor laws, remotely using technology that some of which had never even used before. And then when I came back, I decided, well, why not just change the focus of my career? I've been in operations for the vast majority of my career, and now I'm in business development. And I changed jobs, changed focus, and I'm helping, at an executive level with some, strategy and vision. And I work in the energy sector, and this is a very transformational industry right now. And then, the other thing I just say, in closing, as I look into 2021, I look at renewal. How do we renew? I heard, physical contact and missing those relationships. I'm a very, people-oriented person. And how do we renew that? Because I'll tell you what I'm tired of hearing is new normal. Well, it's not new normal. We're in a transitional phase. I'm going back and I'm going to hug each one of you when I see you at one of our gatherings. And I am so excited to start out 2021. I wish you all the greatest blessings and fortune and health next year.
Wow. Good stuff. Michael, Leone, welcome to the party. Where are you going to start relative to what happened to you this year? Because you got a blessing, I believe, a major blessing.
I had a very major blessing. Absolutely. And it's funny. My 2020 started in 2019 on December 26th when I had a miscarriage. And it was rough and it devastated me. And then 2020 came and the pandemic came. And amidst all of that, we had the blessing that you're referring to with our baby that was born a couple of months ago, who is strong and healthy. In spite of everything, which has been amazing. And actually, as I speak to you right now, I am 99.9% certain that I have COVID in this moment. So I am not feeling 100%. But with all of that, some things that you said way back in March and April on your first show has really stuck with me. And I think in the very first show you did, you quoted Will Smith and you said, being realistic is the most commonly used road to mediocrity.
Yes.
And that has really got me thinking from that first show onward. Because the first lesson that I've kind of taken away, that I've taken into the birth of my daughter and into 2021 is it always works out. No matter what's going on around us, it doesn't necessarily work out the way you expect. Maybe your prayers aren't answered literally, but you always get to where you need to be. You just got to trust that the journey's there and that you're going to find the answers and have the people like this awesome community that we happen to be a part of now. And building off of that, you have a choice to limp or to leap through life. Right. And I think that what I found in 2020 at the beginning was that I was doing a lot of limping or more limping than I thought I was doing. And kind of the revelation that I came to was that fear that's not born out of life or death is selfish.
Wow.
And, right now in 2020, we have a lot to fear that is legitimate, right? We have COVID, we have trying to take care of our friends. We have just so many horrendous things that happened this year that are real fears that we have to deal with. But when you have a fear like, should I take a leap in my career, or should I take a leap to meet that special person or try something new or go back to school or do all these things. That's selfish. That doesn't help you, and that doesn't help the world. I mean, we're surrounded on this call by so many people that have these unique gifts that they can share and inspire. And if they made the choice to let fear hold them back, they'd be in trouble. And so I think I kind of sum all of that up by saying, you know, as we go into 2021, life can either be a whetstone or a wet blanket.
Oh my.
You can let it sharpen you, or you can let it smother you.
Mm.
And that's the attitude that I'm trying to kind of foster and bring in. You know, I want to be an inspiration to my daughter. I want her to know that there are no limits, and it would be selfish of me not to embrace doing more of my tap back in thing and unfolding all of that, because it's so important. So that's what I'm taking into 2021. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Jim, because you started all that out for me when all this started. And obviously you've given me so many opportunities throughout the years as well. So thank you for that gift.
You are welcome, my dear friend. You dropping all these nuggets and pearls. Shannon, he's dropping the nuggets.
I mean, I'm just coming in agreement with him, with everything he's saying. And I would say, I agree. Everyone on this call is an overcomer. With co-hosting with you, Dr. James, hearing people's story, what they've overcome, their testimonies, their personal and professional ones. Just absolutely amazing. And I think I speak for everyone, Michael, on this call is, you know, we're praying for you, and we pray for a speedy recovery, and that COVID goes back from where it came.
Right.
I'm stealing that limp or leap. I love that. Hashtag stealing it. I'm on it. I beat you to it. I see Niall smiling. What's happening with Niall these days?
Well, it has been an interesting 2020, of course, it's for everybody, but, you know, I decided to go in full on launch a business in the middle of a pandemic in 2020, because why not? And so I am an advisor, a coach, an educator, and speaker, and I work with entrepreneurs and professionals to transform their passion and purpose into profit. And profit stands for prosperity, results, ownership, financial freedom, income, and transcendency. And I did not walk into 2020 with a whole lot of clarity, but 2020 can help you get real clear real quick, and about what's important and what to focus on. And so I had to take a step back. And when I work with clients and I work with people and companies, I always have them take a step back, and we got to start with the mindset and your why. And I kind of knew why I was doing it, but I had to get real crystal clear on it. And so my why is to do good in the world by helping do-gooders do good in the world. And my superpower is helping people liberate their dreams from the confines of their mind by helping them get practical and tactical, but
practical and tactical
about making your dreams turn them into a reality. So I've been doing that. I've worked with some amazing clients and helping them get some breakthroughs. One client, we worked and we dug in, had a great product, and worked with them to turn that into a 6-figure business in 3 months, just by tweaking some things and really like getting strategic about it and then pulling that through. I started working with a speakers bureau here in Nashville, and was selected to participate in a program with Kiwanis in teaching people about strategy and execution. I launched a subscription service helping entrepreneurs and professionals learn different business basics. I was named an advisor in residence by Entrepreneur Center here, and I'm stepping into 2021 really encouraged. And I think the biggest thing is I was selected from hundreds of applicants, one of 24 people, to help schools, public schools across the country, help deal with COVID. And so I'm managing the COVID response for a small school in the Mississippi Delta, also building up their operations team, and their functions, all of that. So it's been really, really exciting. This is not where I expected to end the year, but I leaned into it. And I think for me, that was one of the most important things, was just leaning into the unknown and relying on what I know. I mean, I've been doing this for 24, 25 years. I have 8 years of formal experience. And I would always just sit around like, well, how do I do this? And I'm like, I know how to do this. And so it was leaning into my knowledge and knowing, giving up the, we have this imposter syndrome and also a fear of success, and just really like planting seeds this year. So for me, it wasn't so much about, I want to see this great, big, like sudden success. For me, 2020 is about planting seeds that I'm going to be reaping in 2021 and 2022.
Wow. Shan.
I mean, Nile is just, it reminds me of the river that is so large and so great. And your success story just seems to be parallel with your name and your, it seems as if your whole future. So congratulations on all your milestones, and everyone's here that everyone's sharing. I'm going to hand the mic over to my girl, Renee. And Renee, I want to know, tell me something good. Give me the highlight of 2020.
Keep singing, Shannon, keep singing.
I said I only sing for Jesus and funerals and weddings. That's why everybody feels too convicted to make fun of me.
I love it. First, what a phenomenal group to be a part of. What a phenomenal community now to be a part of. I am taking so many notes over here. I'm hearing when Bridget, when you mentioned collective breath, that really hit me in so many different ways. And as I'm hearing all of the voices from the folks on the call today, I'm like, is there another set of collective stories?
Yes, thank you.
I'm plant that seed right here, and I'm going to keep it moving. But what a great group to be a part of. If I think about 2020, and if I reflect on all of the lessons, there were so many lessons, just rich at every turn in 2020. But if I were to sum it up, I would say there's power in the pause. And your heart must be beating, because I'm hearing all these P's.
All these P words,
But there's power in the pause.
Drop those P's, girls, drop those P's.
There's so much power in the pause. We are a society, we're a people that just go, 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 go. We got to get to the next. We got to build, we got to climb, we got to create. We have to do so many things all at once. And there's so much pressure. I felt so much pressure when I didn't do that I kept doing it. And I didn't realize how beat down I was. I didn't realize just how much harm that type of mindset was creating personally, spiritually, professionally, so many things, my health, all of it. So 2020 caused all of us to stop. We had to stop in our tracks where we were. It was so, we weren't expecting it. We were not anticipating it, but it was so powerful on so many different levels. And I think we all know that. I think the one thing that I appreciate most about 2020 is the disruption. It disrupted everything. It disrupted systems. It disrupted beliefs. It disrupted foundations. It disrupted so many things that was power in that pause, in realizing, oh my gosh, everything that we knew to a certain degree is being disrupted in a certain way. So what I'm excited about for 2021 is the so what. Ignore it. Everyone is like, okay, 2020 is over. Let's jump into 2021. Let's move forward. We cannot ignore everything that 2020 revealed. We can't ignore those disruptions. So I'm excited about the so what. So what do we do now that all of these things have been unearthed and disrupted and dismantled and all of those things? So what do we do with it? And so if I go back to Bridget with the collective breath, I think about the collective action. Now we have a responsibility, whether that be personally. Someone said earlier, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's a responsibility for you to take that personal, step toward tapping on your community to help propel you in a collective way toward action, whatever it is that you wanted to do or to work on. Societally, we have a responsibility to repair some of these things that have been broken and rebuild some of these structures that need to be dismantled and that have been or starting to be dismantled. So I think there's just so much power in that notion of collective, collection, collective action, collective breath, collective voices, the so what. So I challenge us all not to, in our haste and our excitement to get rid of 2020, I know I'm excited, but not to forget it, not to lose sight of the lessons that it taught us, and then to carry us into the so what. What do we do now, and how do we build on those foundations and lessons that it has, started to pave the way for us.
Renee, I want to piggyback on you before. I love what you just said, because this is something that I've said many times, that when you survive, you become a thriver. And so when you survive, you have now a responsibility.
That's right.
To do something different with that survival. So whether that is surviving a pandemic, what did you learn from that? How are you going to move forward? How are you going to make that pivot and do a post-pandemic pivot? What are you surviving? Are you surviving the decline of your business? What are you going to do to bring someone else along with you so that they can avoid that pitfall? Right. So we are all responsible, because we are all here. We're all surviving this freaking mess that none of us asked for.
Right.
But we now have a responsibility to do something different, to fill someone else's glass so that it's not half empty, but it's half full. So I love that you said that. So thank you for sharing that, Renee.
Yes, thank you. And I love the thriver. I just added that.
Cecily, I want to piggyback on your piggyback. Because I think that with all of that, one of the things that came out of the pandemic for me was the word mediocrity. And as I looked at my business, like Ms. Sharp, as image consultants and personal brand experts, most of my business 99% of my business was already digital, but there still was a pause, because I think that in some people's minds, those things could be considered frivolous. And in a time where Rome was burning, if you will, people weren't necessarily, at least not my clients, weren't thinking about that perspective of their business. Yes, we did the whole thing about you show up in Zoom, but for me, I remember early in the year, this year, I was in the kitchen and Lord gave me the word deeper. And it took me a couple months to figure out what that was going to be. And that was the glasses in which he allowed me to look at everything this year, is what was underneath, what was underneath all of the feeling insignificant and the fear and all of those things. And so it gave me clarity to move my business into a deeper direction. And so that's why the sign behind me talks about fear and mediocrity. So as I'm working on my second book, which I haven't released the title yet, but I'm going to release it right now because it's been a secret. But it's called The Premeditated Murder of Princess Mediocrity. And as I listened to Nile talk about, her purpose and her plan and how, we were pouring into others, I felt like I work with both men and women, but I have a heart for women right now. And it's because I feel like my superpower is to tell you and to teach you that you were not born to crawl. You were born with potential. You were not born to drink out of the cup of mediocrity. There's something that's so much greater. So moving forward, I'm talking to you about, yes, now we've established your brand through your image, but how do you live it? How do you become the next Ralph Lauren in your niche? And so that's what 2021 is going to look like for me.
That is awesome. Let's piggyback. Sabria, they are singing your lyrics, right?
Yes.
Hi, Sabria.
Hey, Shannon. Hey, everyone. Very happy to be here, Dr. James. So excited. With everything you all are saying, I had a really big experience this year that, it was a really dark space that I went from. My mental health really plummeted. I shut down. I got to a point where I lost my passion really I didn't know why I was doing anything, to be honest with you. And it was quite traumatic for me, because I had an actual travel retreat company I had just launched before the pandemic hit, and I lost everything. I mean, we literally, all the money that I had put in, everything that we had built was pretty much gone, and I had to refund back money that I didn't even have at the time, because I had to pay for the bookings with the money that I was paid from the clients. So it got me to a place where I was like, well, maybe I just made a horrible choice. Maybe this was the wrong thing all along. And I completely did not know that I could move forward. But after a hiatus and after taking some time to really remember that everything I needed all along was in me. I thought that everything that I needed was external, like the travel was what we were and who I was and all this. I thought everything that made me was external to me. And so when I finally went back and did the pivot and we redeveloped our whole product to these virtual retreats, and now we're working with 10 plus companies in just a few months, just that quickly. I mean, when I realized that all we needed was to realize what our core was and what we had to bring to the table, and knowing that I had the talent that I needed already packaged in me and in my team, it changed. It was the most, I'm just very, very lost for words because I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed. I prayed for these moments and God knew what I needed more than I knew at the time. And so now I have a company that I'm going to be able to travel, and I have a whole virtual division now, which I didn't plan for. So that's just how it goes. So sometimes we want to get everything we need from everywhere else, and we think everything else makes us, but everything we were packaged with is exactly where it needs to be. And it starts from within, and I'm an example of it. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Sabria. And Dr. James, if you don't mind, I'm going to go over to my friend Cecil over here. And Cecil, how you doing?
C-Money.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
We're doing great.
So for me, 2020 was a psychological workout. Probably the best way to say it. Yeah.
That's the only workout I've been getting.
Yeah, that's right. It's a psychological workout. And something I uncovered. Went on this journey probably in March and went through the Human Performance Institute's performance program and really started to figure out what is it and when am I my best self. And I took an attempt at it and I thought I had it until 6 months later, where I had the rare opportunity to go through it again virtually. And, what I found out is that I am at my best self when I'm present. And I know it sounds simple, and I know that there's thousands of books about being present. But for me, when I'm present, I recognize that I'm special. Right? I recognize that it's an accelerator. And I recognize that there are barriers, right? And identify the barriers that keep me from that, such as self-judgment or resistance, meaning not accepting, not giving myself grace, or focusing on what's next, what I'm missing, and not focusing on what's happening right now. And that impacts me, especially at home, especially at work, but also unto myself. So for me, it was a psychological workout. As Jim knows, this year I had the opportunity to start a doctoral program. So
yeah, man.
Hope that in 3+ years join Dr. James. I plan to join Dr. James with the DR, right, on my name. But that in itself has been a challenge, but an opportunity. And it made me think about, I think that, at least for me, but I'll speak out to it, which is I think we should stop striving. And what I mean by that is that, and it comes to acceptance. There's no reason for any of us to strive to be resilient. I think that if you made it through 2020 and you're on this call, you are resilient. So stop searching for it, stop looking to become it. You already are. You've proven that. And once you accept that, then let's move on, right? And let's build on top of that. And then for 2021, for me, it's about owning my own power. It's not apologizing for what is good about what I do, what I am, and not thinking that if I claim it strongly that someone will challenge it and now I have to prove it, and just accepting that I got it. And at that point, it's about building on top of it. So it has been, as Dr. James knows, it's been as he knows, the doctoral journey in itself is a psychological workout. So I've had a psychological workout in a psychological workout, but it's just made me stronger and to look back. And I've just been blessed this year to become closer to people that I otherwise would not have become closer to because of this virtual environment. Yeah. So it truly has been a blessing. I know that people have been hurt, but if you've been hurt and you're still here, then you have that gift of resilience. and it is just an opportunity to take it into 2021 and make a difference with so many other people.
Yes. My goodness, Dr. James, where do you go from here other than I think we need to hand the mic over to our hostess with the mostest?
RB, Rachel Barkley. Was this a psychological workout for you this year or what? Opening, closing?
To say the very least, with this smile on at all times. Yeah, I actually accepted this position, this wonderful opportunity, like 2 weeks before the 17th of March, which is when we closed our doors. So, you know, we were sort of I'm faced with, okay, I need to learn how to lead not only, you know, the team, but, you know, 1,000+ members through the complete unknown. So, you know, at times this smile was manufactured, but you know what I learned is that kindness and compassion is sometimes all that anyone needs, you know, and that's something that comes, you know, pretty easily to me. And, you know, I kind of wondered, you know, how am I going to make my mark when I can't even see these people? But, you know, I'm very thankful and grateful that that's really all I needed. So being able to really tap into that engagement with not only the team, but with people that I might not have had time to get to know, really, if we were, you know, in the face-to-face day-to-day. So, you know, and, you know, honestly, I've learned so much, and resilient is a good word. But, you know, I don't want to say move past 2020. I'm very thankful for 2020, the good and the bad.
Wow. Thank you. As I look at the panel, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And Renee, I am going to take you up on that and give Bridget support. We're doing a book. You will get an email asking for your input. We will be doing one. Zach Attack. Bucknell in the house. What's up?
This is a tough act to follow. I should have said I had to go first because I've been blown away by the contribution. I mean, I'm sitting here taking notes. Like there's all kinds of just powerful knowledge being shared. So thank you to everybody who's shared what you have so far, you know, this year and just today on this podcast. So, you know, I made the decision before COVID hit to make a pivot this year. I pivoted from a career in sales to a career that I'm building as a consultant, personal, you know, in terms of personal development, business strategy, process improvement, all that fun stuff. I finished my master's early this year, got through that, and I host a podcast at the University of Penn. And all of these things have been just this wild ride. And then, you know, I came to meet Dr. James from this Pyramid Club happy hour thing, which, you know, somebody suggested in February, hey, you want to join a virtual happy hour? I said, no. I'm a people person. Like that sounds like a terrible idea. But, you know, in April, May, that's what we had. So, you know, it was like, let's give this a shot. So, you know, I met Dr. James. He asked me if I wanted to come on the show. And, you know, I came on right after, you know, right after the George Floyd murder had happened. And I came on and I was like, you know, I'm here to offer one thing. You know, I'm a 40-year-old white male. I don't have this set of life experiences that George Floyd had, that so many others have had. I don't share in that, but I'm pissed off. Like this is not right. And I don't know what to do about it. You know, I shared, you know, in my first interaction with Dr. James, my own vulnerability. I was like, I don't know what to do, but I know that sitting back and being silent or being a keyboard warrior on social media or saying things have to change, like that's not enough. So that I took a chance and I said, let me, you know, I took that chance, and that's been, you know, I'll turn that into, that's been my biggest 2020 realization, you know, just being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Even more bluntly, I read David Goggins' book earlier this year. He's a Navy SEAL turned ultra athlete, crazy dude. But I mean, on one end of the spectrum, crazy motivational too. And he shared a phrase that I've heard from other military friends: embrace the suck. Right? Just embrace it. You know, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And I've turned that, you know, throughout this year, a number of different experiences where I'm like, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to do it. Somebody said, hey, do you want to help and join this team and be a consultant? I said, yeah, I haven't done that before, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to embrace it. And through that, and as I look into 2021, I love the Sir Thriver that Cecily shared, because my phrase has been, I've shifted from earlier in 2020 to now, from survive to thrive, to figure out how you take all this stuff. And so many of you have shared so many great stories about how you have done that personally. And that's really what I've tried to do too, is shift from survivor to thrive and just keep pushing that envelope forward. And that's what I'm looking forward to for 2021.
And Dr. James, I think I can speak for everyone, and I appreciate personally your transparency, your honesty, and your vulnerability, and sharing that. And speaking of honesty and realness, and always knowing where you stand and who you are and what you're talking to and what you get, where is my girl Lisa Bien with a last name that in Spanish means good? I mean, it's got to be good. It's got to be good. Let me hear you, Lisa. Unmute yourself.
I was like, I don't even know what to say to everybody right now. You're all great. I'm just going to say ditto, 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 and that works good. I keep hearing everybody talk. And so for me, I met Dr. James in the beginning of the pandemic. Full-time, so everybody knows, I'm the Vice President of Communications for a long-term acute care hospital company. So I was on the side of work, take care of my nurses, getting PPE. I was listening to all the falsehoods being out there, will they have plenty of PPE? No, we didn't have plenty of PPE. So for the first, I would say 3 to 6 months, my head was down working. And I have a business on the side, and my brand, as everybody, as Dr. James knows and Shannon knows, is all about bouncing back. And everybody was like, this is great. Your brand is all about bouncing back. You've overcome so much adversity in your life. And so I've written a few books. I am a coach, and I kept thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do for the team at Acuity, the nurses that were scared, the respiratory therapists that were scared? What can I do for everybody? So what I did is I used my gift. And so when I think of 2020, I think of a gift. What is my gift? My gift is optimism. My gift is to remind people to remain optimistic, to have kindness and compassion towards themselves. So I took what I do best and I gave it to the nurses, and I created a virtual half-hour once a week for different teams. And we did how are we going to get through today? How are we going to deal with fear? And I was in their faces talking to them. I go on PHL Channel 17 every other Monday, and I do a morning motivation segment. Again, sharing tips, sharing my optimism, because as I sat back and reflect, I think if there's one thing that we know, 2020 was a universal reset. You say pause, Renee, I say reset. But I also think it's a gift. It's a gift because it made us stop. It made us look inside of ourselves. It made us realize what is most important. And the truth of the matter, the truth for me was that it made me really stop and I keep saying, I want to be a national motivational speaker. I want to this, I want to be that. And I realized I'm in the water. You know what I mean? So it's like I keep saying I want to be in the ocean, but I'm in the water, and it's okay. And the water's cold, and I'm still swimming, and I'm still doing my job. So the gift for me from 2020 was to look inside myself and use my gift and recognize that life is our gift, that living, that breathing, the things that we sometimes take so for granted is truly a gift.
Lisa, life is a gift. It is a gift. And I think this year, many of us have been given that gift again, and we have a different perspective on it. I'm seeing time is getting away. I just want one more gift to give to you, a powerful, powerful, powerful speaker, woman, advocate, Eliza Van Court in the house. Bring us home strong. Bring us home strong. 2020, lessons learned, highlights, and or what's next?
That's a lot of pressure because I've been really impressed. I was on the audience side by accident for a while, so I've been listening to y'all, and it was wonderful. I actually wrote an article about this that I'm publishing soon, so it's good timing. It's called Critical Lessons 2020 Helped Us See in 2020. And the idea that I sort of thought was that, usually we need hindsight. You know, we say hindsight is 2020, and 2020 magnified everything for us. And we didn't need hindsight to see what was in front of us because everything was really strict there. And the three things that I think really for me hit home were, one, that we saw what mattered. And, you know, for me, that was a really, really important lesson because we can get wrapped up in what doesn't matter. And we, you know, for the first 5 months of the pandemic, I didn't work. Speakers were just not working. And so we decided to have a scaled back Christmas because we wanted to catch up now that I'm getting work again, get money back in the bank. And I was really worried about seeing all those presents not under the tree. And it was the most beautiful Christmas we've ever had. And it really was. And so that to me was huge. The other thing is we saw ourselves more. My favorite story about this is there was a guy named Tom who called me, and he'd always, whenever I talked to him about race or gender, he always said, you know, people just need to lighten up. We're all working hard. And then he called me and he said, you know, all my friends are talking about how hard their jobs are. They could be sensitive. I haven't worked in like 6 months. And I said, well, you know, maybe you should lighten up, you know, because we're all working really hard. And I said it very slowly and deliberately. And he's like, I got to go, got off the phone, called me back in a week and said, you know, that stuff you talked to me about, not really complicated, but could you send me some articles on that race stuff you've been talking to me about? And for me, that was a huge win, you know, because we suddenly, for the first time, he wasn't seen. And so suddenly he saw himself. And the last thing is we find out who's on our bus. Oprah says, I don't want to be friends with people who want to be on my bus. I want to be friends with people who want to be with me on the side of the road when the bus breaks down. And I think in 2020, many of us saw who is on the side of the bus with us when the bus breaks down. And that was very edifying, seeing the way people responded to being under pressure. And I think that was a really important moment for many, many people. So those were sort of the three things. And I guess for 2021, my thought on 2021 is that we've learned a lot. And the question is, are we going to continue to have 2020 vision? Or when the people who start to do well again, are we going to decide to take the glasses off and not see? And my hope is that we continue to see, because it's so much easier to take off the glasses without all that pressure.
This has been really great. I know, Dr. James, you're about to wrap everything up, but just to hear the collective voices, I keep saying that, that's probably trademark. And so it's a Thriver. So Thriver is trademark, by the way. Marcus, let me just tell you that I have a dynamic young lady who works for Big Brothers Big Sisters in the Tampa area. She is my daughter. She just finished with her master's in psychology. And I'm literally, if you're looking for a new employee who will be an amazing person, add to your team. I'm just saying, my baby girl is the boss. She is the boss.
Hey, please connect us. Please, I'm always looking for great talent. So listening to you, I'm sure she's talented. Actually, I just connected with you on LinkedIn. So send me her stuff.
I will absolutely do that. Absolutely do that. And Cecil Johnson, listen, you and I need to connect on a nonprofit side. So I'm just saying, I'm taking advantage. Renee, everybody on this call, we need to do something collectively because there's so much power right here on this page, on this screen. So LinkedIn is a dynamic piece of equipment for us to connect with each other and share and be responsible for helping us get to the next level, each and every one of us. So I thank you so much for having me on this team.
Hey, Shannon, we did it.
Wait, listen, all I'm doing, I'm putting my plug in is for a virtual happy hour for all of us. I'm just saying before this pandemic ends, because we might drink a glass of wine on this show sometimes.
I am so in for that because I'm starting to work again. So I need to have some time just to unwind now that I'm under less stress. So I'm in, I'm totally in.
We are in overtime. We let it go because momentum was phenomenal. Lessons learned, the connections. We will play a role in keeping us in contact. We'll share everyone's information if you're all right with that. But I want to thank you. Thank you for making your time. Thank you for coming on the show originally. And thank you for being here today and for staying overtime. We did it. We made it happen, and we are going to continue to make it happen. Powerful people do powerful things. Yes, Seth, I'm saying more P words. But again, we did it. Look forward to staying in touch. And thank you for the tools and the wisdom and the tips you gave our listeners. This was indeed an awesome, compelling show, and you know how I end the shows. You were just Jim-packed.